Tim. Welcome to Watch You Want. Thanks for logging on. Today we're looking at the Glashutte Original PanoMatic Reserve 18 karat gold 39mm. This is from the Pano collection. When people think of Saxon watchmaking, one name stands above the others: Glashutte Original. Now, Glashutte was actually the proper successor firm to the conglomerate of original Saxon watchmakers that was collectivized under the communists in 1954. The bottom line is, if you were to draw a line from the present day all the way back to A. Longa himself in the mid-1840s, roughly 1845, that succession of companies would lead directly to Glashutte. This company right here really is the modern custodian of the Saxon watchmaking tradition, and perhaps as a result, it is the largest watch manufacturer in Saxony today. Although A. Longa Unsuna bears the name of the founding father of Glashutte watchmaking, the bottom line is G.O. really is the heir to that heritage and that legacy. And watches like this represent really the upstart made good. Emerging from the ashes of communism, the employees of the old GUB, the Soviet-era collectivized watchmaking firm, reconstituted and created G.O. in 1994. Purchased by the Swatch Group in 2000, the company now represents one of the foremost manufacturers in all of luxury horology, not just in Saxony, not just in East Germany. And there is no line of watches that is more closely identified with Glashutte Original than the Pano collection. Let's put this watch on the wrist and talk a little bit about the PanoMatics, the Pano collection in general, and the PanoMatic Reserve that we have here. Now, the Pano collection debuted in 2000. The Grand Date had become something of a signature of East German watchmaking, and so Glashutte Original incorporated one into the Pano collection. Now, a few years later, 2 or 3 years later, the PanoMatic Reserve that you see here debuted. Automatic winding, it features all of those characteristic elements: the off-center, hours, minutes, and seconds, the Grand Date, the power reserve, but the Grand Date, really the panorama datum, as they call it in German, really is the star here. The wrinkle that this one adds is the power reserve. Now, with a power reserve of 42 hours, you want to be able to track the state of wind, because this is the kind of watch that you do need to occasionally top off if you put it down for a while. Automatic winding, yes, but you have the ability to wind it yourself and see the instant gratification, surprise, and delight scene of the reserve advancing. Now, let me just show you that. You can actually watch the reserve top off as you wind the watch manually, and it's a great little piece of theater to show your friends, whether they're watch savvy or not. You can initiate them, and that's a great kind of interactive function that's also quite practical. Allows you to monitor the state of wind and also enjoy the watch and make quality time of the winding experience. Now, 39mm, you can see the watch on my wrist sits really quite well. It's a perfect fit, it's a perfect size for a formal watch. There's a great deal of contrasting finish, and it sits nice and low. You can see the tumble home from the crystal itself to the bezel to the secondary bezel allows several steps for a sleeve to climb up and over this one. Now, it's only about 12mm thick, so it sits nice and low, and a big reason for that is the caseback feature, the star of the show. This is the Glashutte Original caliber 9003. You can see they use a unique recessed 3/4 rotor, neither a micro rotor nor a central rotor. It's sort of an in-between, but in terms of the thickness it allows, in terms of its effect on the total girth of the case, it's more like a micro rotor in as much as it's very space efficient and allows the watch to be made flat. Now, although unique, it is not the star of the show in the 9003. That honor goes to the dual balance staffs right here. And I'm not calling them a balance bridge just because the architecture of them may be a bridge, very shock resistant, but the look of them is really a balance staff doubled over twice and replicated in a mirror image. You can see 2 swan's neck regulator organs, both with black polish, hand carved on each side of the bridge. This is very much like getting 2 Longa movements in one in terms of the aesthetic effect. You can see Glashutte stripes across the bridge and that classical 3/4 bridge look characteristic of German watches, but automatic winding, and you know, it's kind of like a commercial for Doublemint gum. a very upscale commercial for doublemint gum. You double your pleasure with this kind of movement. Beautifully visible. It also doesn't suffer the Achilles heel of a traditional automatic, wherein you often see half the movement at any given time with the other half obscured by the central winding rotor. Now this one is skeletonized as much to create a shock-absorbing buffer when the rotor has to flex at the end of its cantilever, but you really don't need that skeletonization to reveal the movement itself because Geo's already calculated enough clearance between the winding rotor and the interesting portions of the watch. This is a beautiful watch to behold. There's a lot of added value in the architecture, both technologically with the thin movement, the three-quarter rotor, and the swan's neck, which prevents the indexes from moving under shock, and aesthetically with the beautiful open full visibility. Now the Glashutte stripes are part of the equation. The heat-blued cobalt screws are quite really quite beautiful, and they add a nice third tone between the golden tones of the brass, the silvered tones of the rhodium. You've got that beautiful blue cobalt, deep and all over the movement, nicely evenly spaced. There's plenty of variety here. There's plenty of visual articulation. It will hold the interest of anyone, whether they're watch boffin or not. This is the kind of site that can initiate someone with no prior interest in luxury watches or mechanical watches. Geo definitely scores bullseye with this one. The watch itself is the image of traditional dress watch elegance. Between the applied gold indexes, the gold hands, the gold case, the nice ratio of silver dial to bezel, you get a sense that despite its 39mm size, this one's much broader. It's a panoramic date, but it's also a panoramic view of the dial. I would say the dominant image of this watch is the dial. The case and the lugs, they're tapered, they're discreet, they're subtle. They don't overwhelm the centerpiece of the watch, which is that dial. And that's really the essence of a dress watch, discretion. By keeping the silver dial with its cool, beautiful aesthetic the focal point, the gold never overwhelms. And I feel on a colored gold watch, yellow or rose, indiscreet use of the gold, indelicate use of gold can be overpowering. Geo does a perfect job with this one. Now this watch is in outstanding condition. You can see it on our website, Watch You Want. And if you're looking for longa type impact with basically a little bit more of a value proposition, the Glashutte Original PanoMatic Reserve in 18 karat yellow gold, 39mm, may be exactly the watch you want.